Hi friends, I did promise you earlier that, remember we're talking about the stakeholders' sense of sentiment. In other words, the sense of stakeholder sentiment. And we see the stakeholder sentiment is actually about the ownership sentiment. When a child believes this is his father, he makes demand on the father. This man different from that man. This is how we human beings relate with institutions that we believe are answerable to us. They have a duty to us. They are accountable to us. We are answerable to them. They are answerable to us. That's how human relationship work. Nobody work in isolation. We all work in groups because individually no one can do anything. We do things together. Together we create wealth. And the wealth, when wealth is created, everyone get their share. And that takes us to what your income, what determine an individual's income. We're going to take that first so that we'll look at how economies work. What is responsible for an individual's income? An individual's income is made up of two things, two very important things. One, the capability of the individual himself. Of course, your capability has something to do with the skill, your training, your physical ability, your mental health, your everything comes into your box as an individual. It's very important in your input in whatever you do. That is number one. Number two, the productivity of the economy in which an individual is earning an income by being productive, part of the economy is also part of what constitutes the revenue, the salary, the income of an individual. Now let's take it again. There are two things here: the individual's ability and the capability, the ability, the efficiency, the quality of the economy. The individual is operating to earn that income. This is what determines your individual income. So you will see that someone from the United States of America, everybody know, on the global scale, I mean, it's the largest economy in the world. Is the strongest, is the best. Someone cutting hair or someone working with the same capability, right, could be working in America and making $100 an hour or $70 an hour. Someone in Spain, just here, Europe, Spain, or let's take Britain. In Britain, someone who is making 70, someone in Britain an hour will be making maybe 40, equivalent of $40 an hour. Then someone in Spain will be making about $25 or $30. That's why you see the Spanish come to Britain or they go to America. What is driving people away from the Americans is what? Insecurity. But people are rich there. When you come to Britain, you make money, but it's again not as you will have been making in America. Then when you go to Spain, you discover that it's less. Now, we are talking about man input per hour within different economies. Then go to Ghana. An individual may be making $1 a day, a whole day, $1, which is not up to £1 an hour. If it's lucky, £1 an hour. Now look at the difference. It's so huge, isn't it? They are all putting in the same effort. A driver in America, a driver in Britain, a driver in Spain, a driver in Ghana. They are all putting in the same man effort, everyone 24 hours. The American one makes more because the economy in which that individual is driving the car is higher as compared to the one in Britain. Britain has a very strong economy, very, very strong economy. But when you come to man per hour, it's not as high as that one in the United States of America. Again, when you go to Spain, it's less than the one in Britain. And when you go to Ghana, man per hour, an hour per person, per man, or it's not up to an hour, £1. It's totally low. is because of the capability of the respective economies. Now that we have understood that, what is an economy? Before we will be able to understand why the economies are different, an economy is simply a community of people. Simple, a community of people governed by a common law. Now, I will confuse you a little bit here, and I'm sure you come along with me. A community of people governed by a common law. Some will confuse the word economy with market. Some will also confuse the word economy with industry. To be honest with you, they are not the same at all, but there may be some overlapping in some cases. Economy can be all the three. An economy can be a market, and it can be an industry within the same economy. Yes, an economy can have all these three. Good. But when you talk about a market is where what has been produced is sold. Supermarket, the shop, what has been produced, where it's going to be sold. So an economy may not have all its market within that same economy. It could be outside or in the economy. Can you see that? Now, market. Then the third one is the industry, where the product is produced. The industry, and industries can be in so many locations or at the same locations, and that is industry is where the product are produced. Then they will end up in the market, and then there are economies where they can operate. So the economy the economy can be the kind of environment, or contain the market and contain the industry, but the industry cannot contain the economy. No. The industry cannot contain. The market is just like you can have cocoa market. Cocoa planted in Ghana, the market is in Britain or France or New York. Yes, or Beijing. So you can see that this difference when we understand them. So while an economy operates by a common law, that is within a law, there must be a law for an economy. A market does not necessarily. A market only works by the law of the economy in which they are operating. It's the same with industries. Industries work by the law of the economy in which they are operating. I think that's very important, because the word we have been looking for here is the law, and how law relates to all of them. I think you can see that. So here we've started with economy, industry, and market. Now, so an economy is just everything. Even when you are sleeping, an economic activity is taking place. When you are awake, an economic activity is taking place. When you are going to marry a woman, an economic activity is taking place. When you are going to bury your father, an economic activity. Whatever you do, there's an economic activities. There are economic going on around you. However, although we have things we call social things, I and my friend went to the restaurant. It's a social thing. We end up spending how much? £100. That's an economic activity, isn't it? When you are even sleeping these days, economy is working around you. So let us, now that we've got all these things clear, the next thing we're going to do now is to focus on the word economy. Why? An economy can breed a market from within it, or breed an industry within it. Yes, an economy, I'm repeating this. Remember, it's a product. A product can be consumed or used within an economy or outside the economy. And when you are taking a product from produced within an economy external to an economy external to it, the economy out there will only accommodate that product when it works for her. So you need competition. It must be of value. They want it. They desperately need it. Then they'll allow you to bring it in. So it must be competitive. In other words, the quality must be very, very good for the other economy. Nobody opened the economy for nothing. For you to bring your things in from one economy. So in that economy, the product must be very, very good. So that economy must be be able to create that enabling environment within it to allow the product to compete very well before it goes out. Now, you cannot use an external economy to what? To make your own product competitive. No, the competition is within your economy, then it goes out to compete with others. When we come to explaining the car industries and how they work, I will do this very well. Don't let us go away from where we are focusing. Now, what we want to do here is that for an economy to be very, very competitive within, and therefore to be competitive outside, that economy must be able to build its own internal market and build its own internal industries. Then that economy can go out and do very well. And that's when you start crying about your national currency. That is the currency of the economy, the medium of exchange. The value is totally low. These are what explains that your economy is sick. When you are, and all the West African economy and the economy of the African continent are the victims of this. Now, I want to heal a note on the head quickly here. Almost every one of the economy on the African continent are created by Europeans. Every one of them. Well, I don't know. Some people say, oh, Ethiopia was not colonized. It was occupied by the Italians and then they left. But Sudan was colonized. Egypt was colonized. Morocco was colonized. Libya was colonized. And all these countries are around Ethiopia. The reason why it was left standing, it was not a threat. Maybe it was seen that it will just come back. If you have a tree standing and you clear all the trees around that particular tree, you planted whatever you plant around it, it's as good as chopping off the tree into half. Well, so now these economies, I'm going back to the economies that were created by Europeans, and there were reasons. We should not forget the reason. I am not for blaming anyone. We are searching for solution. So we need to look seriously and be honest to ourselves. When the economies are being created by the Europeans, they were only bringing so many small economic entities, nations together, so that they'll be viable. And sometimes there is kind of friction among they themselves, fighting over who will get what. They ended up with what we today have as our fate and our destiny, our nations, our countries. But to me, these are not the problem. The fact is that they are not viable. That I understand as economies. These economies, the colonizers did not create Ghana for Ghana to learn how to plant cocoa and convert the cocoa to chocolate. If the Ghanaians know how to convert cocoa to chocolate, what do you think the British will be doing? And what is in it for all the trouble they went through, where people were hacked to death, people were killed on all sides, because those on the African continent didn't sit down, they fought. Give them the credit for that, but they lost. And we have to acknowledge the fact that they lost so that we can see tomorrow. Yes, we can learn from their mistakes and stop praising them as if they are our heroes. They are failures. They failed. They tried. You try, you fail, you fail. Now look at it this way. These economies were created so that they will be suppliers of natural resources, raw material, and human labor. You cannot go around that one. But that is what was done. So if they are, and Europeans just replicated what they have, because all the European countries, when we come to the map, which I will be using as we go along, you can see the map behind us of each of the nations so that we can make better comparative analysis. You will easily see that, yes, they created a carbon copy of themselves. All the European countries are very small. So why are you expecting them to go about creating bigger economies? They are small and they know the danger of bigger economies. So they created, and we on the African continent, totally unfortunate, we ended up small economies. But what they created, what exactly did they do? bringing so many nations together, and you create an entity by hook or by crook, sometimes on a river, around the river Gambia, against the Germans and the French and whatever. Then you know, Portuguese and then you have the Gold Coast, and then you have the Ivory Coast, and you have all the coasts, and you have all the Guineas. What is important is that they created something more viable than what they made to serve them, to be the source of raw materials, which is exactly what they did in the United States of America, the colonies of America. That's exactly, when you go to South America, the story is the same. The Portuguese and the Spanish in South America, the French in North America, and the English and the British. And when you come to Asia, everywhere, the story is the same. And even if you think the Europeans are worse, you go to the Balkans, you go and see what the Soviet Union did. Today, at least, Ukraine is saying they've never been part of Russia before. They've never been part of Soviet Union before. So it's nothing new. It's nothing special. What the Europeans did is nothing special. It's a normal thing. They created what they would create, and that thing became our colony. And we are the subject and the citizens of the colony. And they did something very important you can see. You see, when they were creating each of these things, there are things we call borders. What is a border? What is a border? A border to an economy is the fringes of the economy. And economy is an expression of law. So the border is also an expression of law. Simple as ABC. Let us do some 1, 2, 3 here, brothers and sisters. What they did was they created borders because they were creating different economies. The German economy, the French economy, the Dutch economy, the Portuguese economy, whatever you call it, they created the territories using the law of the time. We shall come to law in the next international law in the next clip I'll be broadcasting, sharing with you. Now let's look at this quickly. And they created each by law. Within each constituent, they created institutions, and then they created sense of ownership. They raised it to the highest when they were living, the highest. And what did they do? They created parliament. They created the seat of a prime minister or a president. You can call it anything. Prime Minister Kwame Nkrumah became President Kwame Nkrumah. It doesn't matter. They created that one. And then they created the judiciary, the court. So there were 3 important institutions they created. They created the legislative house. They created the presidential or ministerial seat, the head of government, technically the head of state. And then they created the judiciary, the Supreme Court of Ghana or the Court of Ghana. Now, these are the 3 things they created. Now, with the court, you just take in there, they are professionals. Everywhere in the world, they are very quiet. But there are 2 institutions that whip sentiments seriously. And these 2 institutions are the parliament and the executive. Even the executive is not as strong as the parliament. When you have a dictator, the parliament dies, the dictator takes over. The dictator becomes the law. We'll talk about that when we come to the rule of law. Now, so what we have before us here is that these economies are communities of people governed by a common law. And there is that sense of stakeholders sentiment. So what you want to do, if you want to overcome this challenge, since you know the cause of the problem, that by law, don't let us all be like Malema and my brother Prophet, is it Professor or Prophet Lumumba, or my sister Ericana is it Chilumbo Kwao, my great sister. She's doing a wonderful job. Do not let us go this way. Do not let us go that way. Well, they are Pan-Africanists, and we pray for them, and we want them to work well and to deliver. After all, African Union needs them. But for us, you cannot sit down, my brother Malema, You are crying about people struggling to cross border. What is your use in the parliament? You are a member of the Parliament of South Africa. The little sense to realize that what is stopping people from crossing the border is the law. I want to cross the border. People are standing there. They say, bring your passport. Are they hooligans? No, they are uniform, employed by the states. The law is what make them do that. And you blame the colonizer, the white man. You like calling them white people. That's you say they created, but they are gone. They are not there. It's you and I. This is why I said in South Africa, let's leave them alone. Let them do what they are doing. In West Africa, we've seen the light. Amazing grace, we have seen the light. Our eyes have opened. The borders will go because we know what is keeping the border there. The law. The law. The law. Brothers and sisters, this is the session, our next session where we've stopped. And let us go over it quickly again. Let's recap it again. So we started from economy, we went into industries, went into market, and then we're able to make relate them. And then we concluded that the West African economies, 54, we are talking about 15 here. Let's focus, 15 out of 54, so that we can have a clear, environment to manage, to maneuver, to do what is real and what is practical. We then said each of the 15 nations of West Africa is an economy, is an independent economy, and they still stand as economies. So we have 15 economies. In other words, you have 15, well, they may try to create market among themselves. It's very difficult. It's easier to breed a market, to grow a market, to grow an industry within an economy than outside the economy or among economies that are independent of each other. And then we came to say that, something, as we need to be competitive so that in the global arena, we can be able to, unlike the Pan-Africanists, put things on the table, Pan-Economism, put the practical things on the table, change the destiny of our people, create jobs, create opportunities, transform the world, give the BRICS and the G7 and then the G20 the reason to have us as one. We will talk about that. Here, I want to say thank you for being with me this far. We've seen how, and I've taken you to the history of how what the Europeans created, and they did a wonderful job. Either they did it intentionally or by accident, but I want to believe they know what they are doing. Who doesn't know what we are those who don't know, and we who, please, that we, you, I, and I don't do it again. No. We West Africans. I am a West African, I'm a Ghanaian, I'm a West African. I do not want to be following people blindly anymore. We know our problem in West Africa. We have our course. We are going to